Have you ever argued about something you were certain was true, only to realize later that the other person's truth was just as vivid, just as real to them? That unsettling moment hints at a deeper question. Is there such a thing as objective truth, or is everything we call truth filtered through perception? From the moment we are born, we begin assembling our own version of reality, using senses that are inherently limited and a brain that interprets rather than records. What we call facts are never raw. They are translated experiences, reconstructed memories, and interpretations colored by emotion. The world does not arrive at us fully formed. It is pieced together moment by moment, and every perception is a version of the world. Even our senses lie. Colors that look red to you may not exist as red in the universe. Sounds are waves interpreted as meaning, and touch is translated into sensations your mind can comprehend. We trust these signals as truth, yet they are subjective from the start. And here lies the first shadow. The foundation of truth may not exist outside of our perception at all. Memory complicates the matter further. Every recollection is a reconstruction, not a replay. You remember your childhood home, but what you feel as memory has been reshaped by emotions, beliefs, and stories you've told yourself over decades. Two siblings can remember the same event differently, each convinced their version is correct. Even photographs and recordings are not immune. They capture data, not meaning, and your mind interprets what it sees. This is why eyewitness testimony is notoriously unreliable. What you insist is factual is filtered through layers of interpretation, shaping a truth that only exists in your mind. Realizing this can be destabilizing, but it is also the key to understanding the fragility of certainty. Culture and language embed another layer of subjectivity. Words categorize and define the world, creating boundaries where nature flows freely. Justice, love, success, these are labels that shape reality as much as they describe it. Different cultures assign different meanings to the same actions, the same behaviors, and the same experiences. What feels moral to one person can feel immoral to another, and both claim objective truth. Every narrative you've been raised to accept as fact carries the imprint of history, society, and ideology. The truths you live by are often inherited, never questioned, and deeply personal interpretations disguised as universal facts. Emotion colors perception more than we realize. When grief overwhelms, the world feels bleak. When joy lifts, it shines. Pain and pleasure reshape memory and expectation, shifting reality moment by moment. Fear can make a harmless sound seem threatening. Desire can make the ordinary miraculous. Your internal state creates a lens, a filter that decides what is real and what is illusion. This is why objective truth often feels unattainable, because our minds are not neutral observers. We are architects of perception, and the structures we build are always biased. Recognizing this is both humbling and terrifying. Science promises objectivity, yet even it is human at the core. Experiments are designed, results interpreted, conclusions drawn, all by minds limited by perspective and bias. Peer review reduces error but cannot eliminate interpretation entirely. Even mathematical truths exist only in the frameworks humans construct to understand the universe. When you call something scientific, you are calling it a consensus interpretation, not an ultimate reality. And yet, these consensus truths guide medicine, technology, and civilization itself. Objective truth may exist as a concept, but living it is impossible. The world we experience is never the world itself. Consider morality as an example. We argue about right and wrong, often claiming objectivity, yet morality shifts across time and place. Practices that were sacred a century ago are condemned today. Others that were taboo become celebrated. Each generation interprets morality through its own lens, shaped by survival, culture, and emotion. What seems universal often masks deeply local and temporal truths. Even within a single society, individuals perceive justice differently, and each believes their perception is the objective standard. The illusion is that there is a single moral reality, when in fact there are countless overlapping interpretations. Understanding this frees you from dogma, but it also confronts you with uncertainty. Perception itself is a construction. Visual illusions demonstrate that what we see is an interpretation, not a replication of light patterns. Sounds can trick us, touch can deceive, and taste is entirely subjective. The brain prioritizes survival over accuracy. meaning what feels most real is often what is most useful, not most true. Our senses evolved to navigate the world, not to reveal ultimate truths. This is why philosophers have long asked whether reality exists independent of perception at all. The question is no longer academic, it is personal. Every moment of your life is mediated by perception, a lens that shifts, bends, and reconstructs. Even logic and reason cannot guarantee objective truth. Thought systems are built on premises that are themselves chosen and interpreted. What seems rational in one framework is nonsensical in another. Mathematics, philosophy, law, and language all rely on agreed-upon rules, not universal absolutes. Your reason is effective only because you accept its boundaries. Question those boundaries, and certainty dissolves. This is the profound tension of human existence. We live guided by truths that are interpretations, yet we act as if they are absolute. The dissonance shapes every choice, every conflict, every hope. Memory and imagination are intertwined, further blurring the line. Your mind fills gaps with assumptions, stories, and projections. You remember conversations you only inferred, see faces that never spoke, and predict futures that may never occur. Imagination colors perception so completely that you cannot separate what is real from what is constructed. Childhood experiences are particularly vulnerable. Events that feel vivid may never have happened as you believe, yet they shape your decisions, preferences, and fears. The life you live today is built on interpreted memories, imagined outcomes, and filtered sensations. Your reality is a narrative more than a fact. History itself is a study of subjective truths. We call it history, but it is written by survivors, victors, and interpreters. Each account emphasizes some events and ignores others. Facts are chosen and framed, giving the impression of certainty. Yet, if we could hear every perspective, we would find competing narratives. Objective truth disappears behind human interpretation, leaving only stories shaped by bias and perspective. Understanding this reshapes how you see institutions, traditions, and authority. History is less a record of reality than a reflection of interpretation. Even science experiments are interpreted, often under the influence of prior beliefs. Observation is not neutral. It is guided by hypothesis, context, and expectation. Results confirm or refute ideas, but only within the boundaries set by human judgment. Two scientists can look at the same data and draw different conclusions. The search for objectivity is noble but constrained. It requires awareness, humility, and acknowledgement of bias. The illusion of objective truth exists because we desire certainty in a fundamentally subjective experience. Consider relationships. You may believe someone hurt you objectively, but what they did and what you experienced are filtered through past trauma, emotion, and expectation. Each person is acting from a lens built over years. Misunderstandings arise not from malice alone, but from the unavoidable subjectivity of experience. If reality were objective, communication would be effortless. Instead, interpretation creates a chasm between people. Recognizing this can reduce conflict and increase empathy. Understanding that truth is filtered softens anger, shame, and grief. Relationships are shaped less by actions themselves and more by interpretation. Even our own sense of identity is interpretation. Who you think you are depends on experiences filtered through culture, memory, and self-perception. Labels like smart, kind, or unworthy are stories your mind tells about yourself. These stories feel true because they are reinforced constantly, yet they are interpretations, not ultimate facts. Changing your narrative changes your experience of reality. The illusion of objective truth extends to the very core of self. Awareness of this gives power to choose differently. Society builds collective interpretations. Laws, norms, and etiquette are agreed-upon frameworks of truth. Violate them, and chaos seems to ensue. Yet these truths are relative, constructed for order and survival. Objectivity becomes social consensus rather than absolute reality. The comfort we feel in consensus is a trick of shared interpretation. Understanding this can help you see societal rules as human-made, not natural law. It frees you from rigid thinking. Even perception of danger is interpreted. A shadow at night triggers fear, not because it is objectively harmful, but because the brain predicts threat. Anxiety is a distortion of interpretation, not reality. Courage is not absence of threat, but control over perception. By shaping how we interpret signals, we can shift experience. Our sense of reality is malleable. The illusion of objective truth is inseparable from survival. Yet this illusion shapes everything we fear and desire. Art and beauty are experienced through interpretation. A painting, a song, or a sunset evokes emotion because the observer constructs meaning. Two people see the same artwork and feel completely different responses. Objectivity cannot explain the emotional impact. Perception and context dictate experience. Reality is filtered through aesthetic and emotional lenses. What you feel as beauty or horror is unique to your interpretation. Even universal acclaim is a shared illusion of subjective judgment. Memory and trauma further manipulate perceived truth. A childhood event may feel monumental or terrifying because your mind amplified it, yet the objective facts were likely neutral. Interpretation transforms ordinary events into defining moments. Identity, fears, and habits are built on these reconstructed truths. Healing often requires recognizing this distinction. Truth is not absent, but filtered. Understanding this is liberating and painful at once. Even in mathematics, human-defined axioms underpin the idea of absolute truth. Euclidean geometry seems objective until non-Euclidean spaces are explored. Systems we trust as immutable are conditional on agreed rules. Reality itself may not obey these rules. Our interpretations enforce coherence. Objective truth becomes conditional, contingent on framework. This should humble the mind and expand curiosity. The illusion persists because humans crave certainty. Death and mortality demonstrate interpretive truth. We fear death because of the story we tell ourselves about existence ending. Belief systems shape what comes next, creating entirely different realities of meaning. One person views death as annihilation, another as transition. Both interpret experience through personal and cultural lenses. Objective truth about death remains unknowable, yet interpretation gives it emotional weight. Reality is filtered even in the most universal inevitabilities. Ethics and justice are constructed similarly. What is fair or unjust is rarely absolute. Punishments, rewards, and moral judgments rely on social agreement. History shows shifting morality, proving that objectivity is elusive. Even when claiming universal human rights, interpretation drives understanding. This shows the gap between fact and meaning. Your sense of fairness is shaped by perception. Truth in this domain is always relational. Even technology shapes our interpreted reality. Social media algorithms decide what you see, subtly nudging perception. Filters, frames, and curation manipulate experience. You think you see objective events, yet they are mediated through invisible choices. Confirmation bias is amplified. Interpretation becomes guided by design, not nature. Recognizing this can break mental habits. Your mind's reality is never raw. Science fiction illustrates it too. Movies about simulations, parallel universes, or alternate perceptions tap into the discomfort of filtered reality. We instinctively understand that perception is unreliable. This is why stories about fake worlds are so compelling. They mirror everyday experience. Your perception feels solid, yet it is not guaranteed. Every belief, every emotion, every memory is a translation. Fiction exaggerates reality to reveal the truth of interpretation. Even love is filtered. Romance is experienced through projection, memory, and expectation. You may love a person for qualities that exist only in your mind. Relationships are interactions of interpretations, not raw facts. Misunderstandings arise naturally because objective truth is inaccessible. Yet emotion feels undeniable. The illusion of objectivity touches the most intimate human experiences. Awareness softens suffering without diminishing connection. Perception creates personal reality. Two people experience the same event and leave with radically different stories. One feels triumph, the other despair. Objective truth exists in theory, but lived truth is interpretation. Your experience of life is mediated by brain, emotion, culture, memory, and belief. Each moment you live is a unique construction. Awareness grants choice. Interpretation becomes a tool, not a trap. This brings both liberation and responsibility. Knowing truth is filtered allows you to question assumptions, beliefs, and habits. You can choose which interpretations to nurture and which to release. Awareness creates space for curiosity, empathy, and flexibility. Life becomes less about absolute fact and more about engagement with perception. You gain agency over meaning. This is the first step toward freedom from illusions. It is also profoundly unsettling. So the ultimate question is not what is true, but how you choose to interpret it. Every interaction, every thought, every sensation passes through a filter of perception. Objectivity is an aspiration, not a reality. Yet within interpretation lies the power to reshape experience, relationships, and self. Understanding this can deepen empathy, reduce suffering, and ignite transformation. Reality may never reveal itself in full, but your awareness can illuminate it enough to live meaningfully. And that is truth enough for now.